Hey psychicoers. So here's what happened. I watched a TikTok last week where someone said, I thought I was in love, but I was just addicted to the validation from dating apps. And the comments? People sharing their own stories about confusing those dopamine hits with actual feelings. Studies show the reward pathways that light up when you get a match overlap with the same brain circuits triggered by gambling impulses. Here's the thing. We're swiping through potential partners like we're shopping online, getting those little heart reactions that flood our brains with the same chemicals as slot machines. If you're wondering whether what you're feeling is real love, or just your brain getting high off modern dating culture, this updated quiz will help you figure it out. But first, you need to understand exactly how your brain gets hijacked. How your brain gets hijacked by modern dating. Your phone buzzes with a dating app notification. Your heart rate spikes. Your brain floods with dopamine. Now here's the weird part. That exact same chemical reaction happens when someone pulls the lever on a slot machine. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between a hinge match and hitting the jackpot at a casino. Both trigger the same reward pathways, the same anticipation, the same addictive cycle that keeps you coming back for more. Dating apps figured this out years ago. They use something called intermittent reinforcement schedules, the same psychological principle that makes gambling so addictive. Research in operant conditioning demonstrates that unpredictable rewards create the strongest addiction patterns. Sometimes you get a match, sometimes you don't. Sometimes they respond right away, sometimes they leave you hanging. Your brain gets trained to expect rewards at unpredictable intervals, which creates the strongest possible addiction pattern. It's not an accident. The apps are designed to keep you hooked, not to help you find love. Studies indicate high daily engagement, driven by this intermittent reinforcement. Each notification triggers the same neural response as placing a bet. Your brain releases dopamine, not when you actually connect with someone, but when you see that little red notification bubble. You're getting high off the possibility of connection, not the connection itself. And that chemical rush? Your body interprets it as attraction, as excitement, as maybe even love. This is why you can feel your heart racing when someone likes your photo, even if you've never met them. Why you screenshot conversations with strangers to analyze with your friends. Why you can develop intense feelings for someone based on 3 text exchanges and a carefully curated profile. Your brain is experiencing real emotions, but they're triggered by app mechanics, not by genuine human connection. The dopamine flooding makes it almost impossible to distinguish between manufactured excitement and authentic attraction. When you're constantly getting these micro hits of validation from likes, matches, and messages, your baseline gets reset. Normal human interaction starts to feel boring in comparison. Real relationships require time to develop, patience, vulnerability. But your dopamine-hijacked brain expects instant gratification, immediate feedback, constant stimulation. This connects directly to something called breadcrumbing, when someone gives you just enough attention to keep you interested, but never enough to actually move forward. They text you sporadically, like your photos sometimes, respond to your stories, but don't make real plans. And somehow this keeps you more hooked than someone who's consistently available. Why? Because intermittent reinforcement is the most powerful addiction mechanism known to psychology. The uncertainty keeps your brain in a constant state of anticipation, flooding you with dopamine every time they throw you a crumb. Your body physically reacts to read receipts and response delays. Research suggests phone notifications can trigger stress responses. When you see those 3 dots appear and disappear, your stress levels spike. When someone opens your message but doesn't respond, your fight or flight response activates. When they take hours to reply, your attachment system starts panicking. These are real physiological responses to digital stimuli that have nothing to do with how you actually feel about the person. Researchers have identified something called digital limerence, obsessive thoughts triggered by app mechanics rather than real connection. You find yourself thinking about someone constantly, not because you have deep feelings for them, but because the app's design has created an addictive loop in your brain. You're obsessing over someone's response time, analyzing their emoji choices, creating elaborate theories about why they swiped right on you. Your thoughts are consumed by someone you barely know, and you mistake this mental preoccupation for meaningful. Attraction. The statistics are honestly alarming. 73% of Gen Z reports feeling anxious when someone doesn't respond within 2 hours. 2 hours. That's not attachment, that's addiction withdrawal. Your brain has been conditioned to expect constant digital validation, and when it doesn't come, you experience genuine distress. The anxiety isn't about losing this specific person. It's about losing access to the dopamine hit their attention provides. This affects your ability to recognize authentic feelings in devastating ways. When you're used to the artificial high of app-based interactions, real human connection can feel flat by comparison. Someone who's consistently kind, available, and interested might seem boring compared to the person who keeps you guessing. Your brain has been trained to associate love with uncertainty, passion with anxiety, and connection with the rush of waiting for a notification. The most insidious part is how this makes you question every feeling you have. Did you actually like them? Or did you just like the validation they gave you? Are you missing them? Or are you missing the dopamine hit of their attention? Were you attracted to who they are? Or just addicted to the uncertainty they created? When your brain's reward system has been hijacked by technology, it becomes almost impossible to trust your own emotions. Dating apps have created a generation of people who confuse stimulation with connection, uncertainty with passion, and digital validation with love. You can develop intense feelings for someone based entirely on how they interact with your online presence, not on who they actually are as a person. The excitement you feel when they like your story might be stronger than anything you've experienced in real life. But it's chemically identical to the rush a gambler feels when the reels are spinning. This is why people report feeling empty after casual hookups arranged through apps. Why situationships feel simultaneously thrilling and unsatisfying. Why you can feel deeply connected to someone through text, but awkward in person. Your brain has been trained to expect a certain type of stimulation, and real human interaction operates on completely different principles. Real love develops slowly, builds gradually, deepens over time. But your dopamine-addicted brain interprets this natural pace as boredom or lack of chemistry. The cruelest irony is that this system makes you less likely to recognize real love when it appears. Someone who's genuinely interested in you won't play games with your emotions. They'll respond consistently, communicate clearly, and try to see you in person. But to your app-conditioned brain, this stability might feel like disinterest. You've been trained to associate love with chaos, connection with uncertainty, and passion with the anxiety of not knowing where you stand. Understanding these mechanisms is the first step to distinguishing manufactured attraction from real emotion. When you recognize that your brain is responding to app design rather than human connection, you can start to separate your feelings from the artificial stimulation. The person who makes you feel calm and secure might actually be better for you than the one who keeps you constantly on edge. The relationship that develops slowly might be more substantial than the one that feels instantly intense. Your nervous system needs time to recalibrate. Real attraction doesn't always come with fireworks and racing hearts. Sometimes it feels like coming home. But there's another way your brain reveals what's really happening, through how you present your relationships to the world. The rise of soft launching and what it reveals about your feelings. You see it everywhere now. Mysterious coffee cups for two, shadow silhouettes at dinner, faceless hands holding theirs. Welcome to soft launching, where people drop subtle hints about their love life without actually revealing who they're dating. Recent surveys show rising mentions of soft launching on social media, reflecting changing norms around commitment. Soft launching, as defined by Merriam-Webster, means teasing relationship hints without full disclosure. Maybe it's their hand reaching for popcorn at the movies, or two wine glasses on a table with no faces in sight. You're acknowledging that someone special exists in your life, but you're not ready to make it official in the court of social media opinion. It's the digital equivalent of saying, "I'm seeing someone," instead of "I have a boyfriend." The psychology behind this behavior gets complicated fast. Sometimes it's about protecting privacy, creating a sacred space that social media can't touch. Other times it's fear of commitment disguised as being mysterious. And sometimes, honestly, it's because you're not sure if this person is worth the social media announcement yet. You're testing the waters, seeing how it feels to hint at couple dom without fully diving in. You're soft launching. Behavior reveals more about your feelings than you might realize. When you're genuinely excited about someone, when you feel secure in the connection, soft launching feels intentional. You're choosing to keep something precious away from public scrutiny. But when you're soft launching because you're not sure how you feel, or because you're worried about what people will think, that's different. You're hedging your bets, keeping an escape route open. The difference between protecting sacred space and hiding due to uncertainty shows up in your motivation. Protecting sacred space feels empowering. You're making a conscious choice to keep something beautiful between you and them. Hiding due to uncertainty feels anxious. You're avoiding commitment, keeping your options open, or worried about judgment. The behavior looks identical from the outside, but the internal experience is completely different. This connects directly to attachment styles in revealing ways. People with anxious attachment often rush to make relationships Instagram official. They need public validation to feel secure, external confirmation that this connection is real. The relationship doesn't feel legitimate until it's been witnessed and approved by their social circle. For them, soft launching might feel like torture, like being kept a secret when they desperately want to be claimed. Secure attachment allows for intentional privacy. These people can soft launch because they're comfortable with the relationship's reality, regardless of social media recognition. They don't need external validation to feel confident in their connection. The relationship exists in real life, not in the digital realm, so they can choose how much or how little to share without their security being threatened. People with avoidant attachment might soft launch to maintain emotional distance. They want the benefits of connection without the vulnerability of public acknowledgement. Soft launching lets them participate in relationship culture while keeping one foot out the door. They can enjoy the person's company without having to fully commit to being seen as a couple. Data shows something interesting. 68% of relationships that start with soft launching last longer than those immediately publicized. At first glance, this might seem counterintuitive. Wouldn't couples who are excited enough to go public right away be more committed? But the statistics suggest otherwise. Couples who soft launch are either more intentional about privacy, or they're taking time to build a foundation before involving outside opinions. The relationships that last started with people who understood the difference between private and secret. Private means choosing what to share and when. Secret means hiding because you're ashamed or uncertain. Soft launching can be either, but the lasting relationships came from couples who chose privacy, not couples who were avoiding commitment. Your social media behavior reflects your internal emotional state more accurately than you might want to admit. When you're genuinely falling for someone, you might soft launch because you want to protect this new, fragile thing from outside interference. When you're just enjoying the attention or validation someone gives you, you might soft launch because you're not ready to be associated with them publicly. The urge to immediately post someone new often comes from ego rather than love. You want to show off your new catch, prove that you're desirable, or make your ex jealous. Love doesn't need to prove itself to an audience. Ego does. If your first instinct when something good happens in your relationship is to post about it, you might be seeking validation rather than celebrating connection. Some people soft launch because they're dating multiple people and don't want to complicate things. Others do it because they're not proud of who they're seeing, or because they're keeping their options open. The motivation behind the behavior reveals whether you're building something real or just enjoying the moment. Your friends can usually tell the difference. When you're genuinely happy with someone, your soft launching feels warm and protective. When you're uncertain or just having fun, your soft launching feels secretive and anxious. The energy you bring to talking about your mystery person reveals everything about how you actually feel. The posting patterns say everything about relationship depth. Someone who soft launches briefly and then gradually includes their partner more is probably building genuine intimacy. Someone who soft launches indefinitely might be avoiding deeper commitment. Someone who goes from zero to fully public overnight might be driven more by excitement than by actual connection. The most telling indicator is how you feel about your own soft launching behavior. Are you protecting something precious? Or are you hiding because you're not sure? Do you feel intentional and secure, or anxious and uncertain? Your gut reaction to your own posting patterns reveals whether you're nurturing love or just enjoying attention. When you're truly falling for someone, soft launching feels like a gift you're giving to the relationship. You're choosing to keep something sacred between you two before sharing it with the world. When you're just enjoying the validation or excitement someone provides, soft launching feels like a strategic choice to avoid commitment while still getting relationship benefits. The people who soft launch because they're protecting genuine connection tend to gradually include their partner more as trust builds. The people who soft launch because they're uncertain tend to stay mysterious indefinitely, never quite ready to fully commit, but never quite ready to walk away either. Your social media instincts are actually revealing whether you're feeling love or just enjoying the attention. The desire to protect comes from love. The desire to hide comes from uncertainty. And the desire to show off comes from ego. Your first instinct, when you think about posting them, tells you everything you need to know about what you're actually feeling. But there's something even more revealing about modern dating patterns. People are creating entire relationship categories that didn't exist before, and the search data tells a story about what we're really looking for. Situationships, the new emotional limbo. Google searches for situationship jumped 340% in 2025. That's not a typo. 340%. People are desperately trying to name something that feels familiar, but doesn't quite fit into traditional relationship categories. You know what a situationship is, even if you've never called it that. It's when you act like a couple, but aren't officially dating. You have inside jokes, regular sleepovers, and genuine emotional intimacy. But if someone asks if you're together, you both get weird about it. Situationship culture has become the default setting for modern romance. You get all the benefits of emotional intimacy and physical connection without any of the scary commitment stuff. No labels, no expectations, no pressure to define what you're doing or where it's going. You just exist in this comfortable grey area where you can be close without being claimed, intimate without being official, connected without being committed. The psychology behind this arrangement gets complicated fast. On the surface, situationships look like modern flexibility. You're both busy, you don't want to rush into anything, you're taking things slow. But underneath, situationships often mask a deep fear of vulnerability, disguised as being progressive about relationships. You're scared to find out if this person actually wants you for real. So you stay in the safe zone where rejection isn't possible, because you never officially tried. There's real psychological comfort in situationships. You get the dopamine hit of connection without the cortisol spike of commitment. Someone to text when you're bored, someone to sleep next to when you're lonely, someone to share your day with when you need validation. All the relationship benefits without the emotional risk. If it doesn't work out, you can tell yourself it wasn't really a relationship anyway, so the loss doesn't count as much. But here's where it gets tricky. Situationships can serve two completely different purposes, and most people don't realize which one they're in. Sometimes they're a genuine testing ground for real feelings. You're both taking time to see if this connection could develop into something deeper. You're getting to know each other without the pressure of relationship expectations. The lack of labels gives you space to explore your feelings honestly. Other times, situationships are an avoidance mechanism. You're using the ambiguity to avoid making a real choice about this person. You don't want to commit because you're not sure they're worth it, but you don't want to lose the benefits they provide. You're keeping your options open while getting your needs met. The situationship becomes a way to have your cake and eat it too. The modern fear of catching feelings treats emotions like inconvenient side effects. You'll hear people say things like, "I'm trying not to catch feelings," or "I don't want to ruin this by getting attached," as if loving someone is a disease you might accidentally contract. This mindset turns natural human emotions into problems to be avoided rather than experiences to be embraced. When you're afraid of catching feelings, you're really afraid of being vulnerable. You're scared that if you admit you care, the other person might not care back, or they might use your emotions against you. So you try to stay emotionally detached while still getting the benefits of connection. You want to feel close without feeling exposed, intimate without feeling invested. Research shows something fascinating about people in situationships. They report higher anxiety levels than people in defined relationships, but they claim to prefer the freedom. This creates a psychological paradox where you're stressed about the uncertainty, but convinced you want the flexibility. You're anxious about not knowing where you stand, but you tell yourself you don't want to know anyway. The anxiety makes sense when you think about it. Humans are wired to seek security and predictability in relationships. When you don't know where you stand with someone, your nervous system stays in a state of low-level alert. You're constantly reading signals, analyzing their behavior, trying to figure out how they feel without directly asking. It's emotionally exhausting, but you convince yourself it's better than the alternative. This reflects a deeper confusion between wanting someone and wanting the idea of them. In situationships, you often fall for the potential rather than the reality. You love the version of them that exists in your head, the relationship you imagine you could have if you both just committed. But you never actually test whether that imagined connection matches the real thing. The person you're in a situationship with becomes a blank canvas for your projections. Without clear definitions or commitments, you can imagine they feel however you want them to feel. You can pretend the relationship is whatever you need it to be in the moment. This fantasy element can feel more intense than actual love because it's not constrained by reality. Situationships can prevent authentic connection in sneaky ways. When you're both holding back, neither of you gets to show up fully. You're performing casualness when you might actually want commitment. You're pretending to be okay with uncertainty when you're actually craving security. The whole dynamic becomes built on what you're not saying rather than what you are. But they can also reveal authentic connection. Some people discover that even without labels, they genuinely care about each other. The lack of pressure allows them to connect naturally without forcing anything. They realize that their feelings developed organically, not because they were supposed to or because it was expected. The key difference is whether you're avoiding commitment because you're not sure about your feelings, or because you're scared of them. If you're not sure, the situationship gives you time to figure it out. If you're scared, the situationship becomes a way to avoid ever having to find out. People often stay in situationships because they're afraid to discover their feelings aren't as deep as they hoped. You'd rather maintain the fantasy that this could be love than risk finding out it's just convenience. The ambiguity protects you from disappointment, but it also prevents you from experiencing genuine intimacy. Most situationships end not because the feelings weren't real, but because someone finally gets tired of the uncertainty. Either they want more and ask for it, or they realize they're not getting what they need and walk away. The situationship becomes unsustainable once someone decides they'd rather risk rejection than accept ambiguity. The people who transition from situationships to real relationships are usually the ones who discover their feelings are deeper than they expected. The people who stay stuck in situationship limbo are often the ones who are afraid to find out their feelings aren't as deep as they hoped. But this pattern of emotional avoidance isn't happening in a vacuum. There's Gen Z's attachment crisis and what it means for love. Studies show 60% of Gen Z exhibits anxious attachment, compared to 40% in millennials. That's a massive jump in just one generation, and it's reshaping how an entire group of people approaches love and relationships. Gen Z didn't just grow up with technology. They grew up with their emotional development happening through screens, notifications, and digital interactions. Their attachment styles formed in a world where connection was always available, but somehow never felt secure. Digital natives developed different attachment patterns because their earliest relationship experiences were mediated by technology. Where previous generations learned to form bonds through face-to-face interaction, physical presence, and direct communication, Gen Z learned to connect through texts, social media, and video calls. Their nervous systems adapted to seeking security through digital signals. Read receipts, response times, and online activity status became their primary indicators of whether someone cared about them. The constant digital connection created a paradox where people feel more connected than ever, but emotionally more distant. You can text someone all day, follow their every story update, and know exactly what they had for breakfast, but still feel like you don't really know them. The illusion of intimacy through digital communication often masks the absence of genuine emotional connection. Gen Z grew up thinking they were close to people they'd never actually been vulnerable with in person. Pandemic isolation amplified these attachment issues exponentially. Just as Gen Z was supposed to be developing adult relationship skills, they were forced into digital-only connections for extended periods. The formative years when they should have been learning to navigate in-person intimacy, reading body language, and developing comfort with physical presence were spent behind screens. Their attachment systems learned to seek security through digital validation rather than human presence. Social media created a comparison culture that devastated self-worth in relationships. Gen Z doesn't just compare themselves to their peers. They compare their relationships to the highlight reels they see online. Every couple looks happier. Every connection seems deeper. Every romance appears more perfect than their own. This constant comparison creates insecurity that shows up as anxious attachment. Always wondering if their partner could find someone better. Always needing reassurance that they're enough. Anxious attachment in the digital age looks different from previous generations. Instead of calling repeatedly when someone doesn't respond, Gen Z analyzes screenshots with friends, obsesses over why someone viewed their story but didn't reply to their text, and creates elaborate theories about what someone's social media activity means about their feelings. They track their partner's online activity like detectives, looking for clues about their emotional state and commitment level. The screenshot analysis culture reveals how deeply anxious attachment has embedded itself in Gen Z's relationship patterns. They send screenshots of conversations to friends asking, "What does this mean?" Or, "Are they losing interest?" Every emoji choice gets analyzed. Every response time gets measured. Every social media interaction gets interpreted as evidence of their partner's feelings. The anxiety that previous generations might have felt internally, Gen Z processes collectively through digital forensics. Story-watching patterns become relationship barometers. If someone watches your story immediately, they must be thinking about you. If they don't watch it for hours, they must be losing interest. If they watch it but don't respond to your message, they must be playing games. Gen Z has turned Instagram story engagement into a complex language of romantic interest, creating anxiety where none existed before. This affects their ability to distinguish between needing validation and feeling genuine love in profound ways. When your attachment system is triggered by digital signals rather than human connection, you start confusing the anxiety of waiting for a response with the excitement of being in love. The dopamine hit of getting a good morning text feels like affection, but it's actually just your nervous system getting the validation it craves. The constant need for digital reassurance makes it hard to recognize when someone actually cares about you. Someone who responds consistently but doesn't play texting games might seem boring compared to someone who keeps you guessing. Your anxious attachment system has been trained to associate love with anxiety. So stable, secure behavior doesn't trigger the same chemical response as uncertainty and drama. Gen Z often mistakes their trauma responses for romantic feelings. The racing heart when someone doesn't text back, the obsessive thoughts when someone acts distant, the relief when they finally respond. These feel like passion, but they're actually symptoms of anxious attachment. You're not falling in love, you're having your attachment wounds activated by someone's inconsistent behavior. The fear of abandonment manifests differently in digital relationships. Instead of fearing someone will leave town or stop calling, Gen Z fears being left on read, being unfollowed, or being replaced by someone from their partner's Instagram DMs. The threats to connection feel more immediate and constant because they're visible in real time through social media activity. Technology promised to make relationships easier, but it's made them more anxious. You can see when someone is active online, but not responding to you. You can watch them interact with other people's content while ignoring yours. You can track their location and wonder why they're somewhere they didn't tell you about. The transparency that was supposed to create trust has actually created more opportunities for anxiety and suspicion. This generation struggles with the concept of privacy in relationships. They're used to sharing everything digitally, so when someone wants to keep parts of their life private, it triggers abandonment fears. The idea that someone might have experiences or feelings they don't immediately share online feels like rejection rather than healthy boundaries. The irony is that Gen Z desperately wants authentic connection, but has been trained to seek it through artificial means. They want deep intimacy, but have learned to communicate through carefully curated posts and calculated response times. They want emotional security, but have been conditioned to find it through digital validation rather than human presence. Whether Gen Z can form secure attachments in a digital world remains an open question. Some are learning to recognize their patterns and actively work to develop healthier relationship skills. Others remain trapped in cycles of digital anxiety, confusing the highs and lows of online interaction with genuine emotional connection. The most hopeful sign is that awareness is growing. More young people are recognizing that their attachment patterns were shaped by technology and are actively working to develop more secure ways of connecting. They're learning to value consistency over excitement, presence over digital performance, and authentic vulnerability over curated perfection. Understanding your attachment style becomes crucial for recognizing whether you're seeking love or just trying to fill an emotional void. If your romantic feelings are primarily triggered by digital interactions, uncertainty, and validation seeking, you might be responding to attachment wounds rather than genuine connection. Real love feels secure, not anxious. It builds slowly through consistent presence, not through the peaks and valleys of digital communication. But recognizing these patterns is just the beginning. The real insight comes from understanding how your subconscious mind processes these feelings and reveals them through your immediate reactions to emotional scenarios. The psychology behind your quiz responses. The quiz format itself taps into these subconscious emotional patterns because your immediate reactions bypass conscious filters. When you read a scenario about someone not texting back, your body reacts before your mind can rationalize the situation. That split-second response carries more truth about your attachment patterns than any carefully considered answer ever could. Your brain responds to these situations faster than you can think about them, triggering emotional patterns that have been developing since childhood. The scenarios catch you off guard, so your brain doesn't have time to craft the response you think you should give, or the one that makes you look good. Instead, you respond from your emotional core, the place where your deepest relationship fears and desires live. These automatic emotional responses developed through years of relationship experiences, both good and traumatic. Sternberg's triangular theory of love gets updated for 2025 with intimacy, passion, and commitment taking on new meanings in the digital age. Intimacy now includes how vulnerable you can be over text, whether you feel emotionally close during video calls, and if you can maintain connection despite physical distance. Passion isn't just physical attraction. It's the dopamine rush of seeing their name on your phone, the excitement of their social media interactions, and the chemistry you feel through screens. Commitment means choosing them over other dating app matches, being exclusive in your digital attention, and prioritizing your connection over the endless options technology provides. Different brain regions activate for lust versus love, and this shows up clearly in your scenario responses. When you're driven by lust, your brain's reward center lights up, seeking immediate gratification and physical satisfaction. Your responses focus on what you can get from the connection, validation, excitement, sexual fulfillment. When you're experiencing love, your brain's attachment and empathy centers activate, making you think about their well-being, your shared future, and how you can contribute to their happiness. The way you instinctively respond to scenarios reveals which neural pathways are dominating your emotional experience. Emotional granularity, your ability to distinguish between similar feelings, determines how accurately you can assess your own romantic emotions. People with high emotional granularity can tell the difference between missing someone and being bored, between feeling attracted and feeling validated, between wanting connection and wanting control. Those with low emotional granularity experience emotions in broad categories: good or bad, exciting or boring, attracted or not. The quiz scenarios test this ability by presenting situations that evoke similar but distinct emotional responses, helping you identify whether you can differentiate between nuanced feelings. Your body language while taking this quiz reveals as much as your answers. Notice if you're leaning forward during certain questions, if your breathing changes when you read specific scenarios, or if you find yourself fidgeting with particular topics. Your physical responses happen before your conscious mind processes the question, giving you unfiltered information about your emotional state. The questions that make you shift in your seat or change your posture are hitting something real in your nervous system. Some questions feel more triggering than others because they're hitting emotional truth. The scenarios that make you uncomfortable, that feel too close to home, or that you want to skip entirely are the ones revealing the most about your relationship patterns. Your discomfort isn't random. It's pointing to areas where you have unresolved fears, unmet needs, or painful experiences that still affect how you approach connections. The emotional charge you feel around certain questions is information about what matters most to you in relationships. Your resistance to certain questions becomes the most revealing aspect of the entire quiz. The ones you want to answer quickly without thinking, the ones you feel defensive about, or the ones that make you want to explain your response are showing you exactly where your emotional blind spots exist. Resistance indicates that the question is touching something you're not ready to examine, something that threatens your current understanding of yourself or your relationship patterns. The questions that make you think, "That's not fair," or "That's too complicated," are usually the ones that are most important for your growth. When you resist a scenario, you're protecting something. Maybe your self-image, your hope for the relationship, or your fear of disappointment. The protection mechanism itself reveals what you're most afraid of losing or confronting about your romantic connections. Physical resistance shows up as eye-rolling, sighing, or feeling annoyed by certain questions. Emotional resistance appears as wanting to justify your answer, feeling like the question doesn't apply to you, or thinking the scenario is unrealistic. Both types of resistance point to areas where you're not fully honest with yourself about your feelings, motivations, or patterns in relationships. Your first instinct when reading each scenario carries more truth than your second-guessed response. That initial flash of recognition, the immediate emotional reaction before you start analyzing the question, is your authentic response. The moment you start thinking about what your answer says about you, You've moved away from emotional truth into self-protection or self-presentation. The questions you find easy to answer versus the ones that feel complicated reveal different aspects of your emotional awareness. Easy questions usually touch on areas where you're clear about your feelings and patterns. Complicated questions hit places where you're conflicted, uncertain, or avoiding something important about your relationship experience. The questions that make you uncomfortable are showing you exactly what you need to examine about your feelings. Your discomfort is a compass pointing toward the emotional work that would most benefit your relationship patterns. Instead of avoiding these reactions, they're inviting you to look more closely at what's really driving your romantic choices, and whether those motivations are leading you toward the kind of connection you actually want. Now that you understand how your subconscious reveals itself through these responses, let's look at specific scenarios that expose the truth about your feelings. Question 1 to 3. The digital age scenarios. These first 3 questions reveal your relationship with digital validation in ways that might surprise you. They're designed to catch you in moments when your brain reacts before you can think, showing whether you're attached to this person or just addicted to the attention they provide through screens. Question 1. You posted something personal in your story. You see they viewed it within minutes, but it's been 3 hours and they still haven't responded to the text you sent earlier. What's your immediate reaction? 1. My stomach drops. Did I say something wrong? I start replaying our last conversation, looking for clues. 2. I feel annoyed. If they have time to check my story, they have time to respond to my message. 3. I notice it but try to give them space. Maybe they're processing what I shared, or just busy. 4. I assume they'll respond when they can. Seeing my story might have been a quick scroll, but replying to my text requires more attention. Your reaction to this scenario reveals everything about whether you're seeking connection or validation. If you picked 1, you're likely experiencing anxiety that has nothing to do with this specific person and everything to do with your attachment patterns. The panic response indicates you're using their digital behavior to regulate your own emotional state. When you picked 2, you're treating their attention like a commodity they owe you, which suggests you might be more invested in being prioritized than in actual communication. 3 shows you're trying to balance your needs with theirs, though you're still tracking their digital activity closely. 4 indicates secure attachment, where you can separate their social media behavior from their feelings about you. Question 2. They post a photo that's clearly meant to look attractive. You scroll through the comments and see other people leaving fire emojis, flirty comments, and obvious compliments. How do you feel? 1. Jealous and threatened. I want to comment something to mark my territory, or I feel competitive with the other commenters. 2. Annoyed that they're seeking attention from others when they have me. Why do they need validation from strangers? 3. A little uncomfortable, but I try to remember that posting attractive photos doesn't mean they're looking for someone else. 4. I might notice the comments, but I'm not worried. They chose to be with me, and I trust that their social media activity doesn't reflect their relationship commitment. This question hits the intersection of jealousy and security in digital spaces. The Pew Research Center found that 23% of partnered social media users have felt jealous or unsure about their relationship due to their partner's interactions on social media, with this share rising to 34% among those aged 18 to 29. If you chose 1, you're experiencing digital territoriality that suggests you see other people as threats to your connection. Your brain is treating social media like a dating competition rather than a platform for self-expression. 2 indicates you're trying to control their behavior to manage your own insecurity, which suggests you might be more concerned with exclusivity than with their happiness. 3 shows awareness of your jealousy while trying to rationalize it away, indicating internal conflict between your anxious attachment and your logical mind. 4 demonstrates emotional security, where you can separate their individual identity from their relationship identity. Question 3. You're hanging out together, having a good time, but you notice they keep checking their phone and scrolling through apps. How does this affect you? 1. I feel ignored and unimportant. I might make comments about their phone usage or try to get their attention back to me. 2. I get bored and start checking my own phone. If they're not fully present, why should I be? 3. I feel a bit hurt, but I don't want to seem needy by bringing it up. Maybe they're just used to multitasking. 4. I'm not thrilled about it, but I understand that phone habits are hard to break. I might suggest we both put our phones away if I want more focused time together. This scenario tests your need for constant attention versus your comfort with their independence. Research shows that phubbing, snubbing a person in a social setting by focusing on one's smartphone, can lead to heightened jealousy and weaken the bond between partners. If you picked one, you're likely experiencing what psychologists call attention hunger, where you need their focus to feel secure in the connection. Your self-worth becomes tied to their undivided attention, which suggests you might be using their presence to regulate your own emotional state. 2 shows you're responding to their behavior rather than addressing your needs directly, indicating you might be more focused on matching their energy than creating the connection you actually want. 3 reveals the internal conflict between wanting their attention and fearing you'll seem demanding if you ask for it. 4 demonstrates emotional regulation where you can express your needs without making their behavior about your worth. These scenarios reveal whether you're attached to digital validation or to the person themselves. When your emotional state depends on their social media activity, response times, or digital attention, you're likely experiencing what researchers call digital limerence. Obsessive thoughts triggered by app mechanics rather than genuine connection. Your brain is responding to their online behavior the same way it responds to gambling outcomes, creating addiction-like patterns that have nothing to do with love. Research from eHarmony and the Imperial College of Business found that dating app usage is directly linked to fluctuations in key hormones like dopamine, cortisol, and testosterone, producing effects similar to those seen in gambling addiction. When you're constantly monitoring their digital activity for emotional regulation, you're essentially using their online presence like a slot machine, seeking unpredictable rewards that trigger your brain's reward system. Social media has created new relationship anxiety triggers that previous generations never experienced. Your parents never had to worry about their partner liking someone else's thirst trap, or wonder what it meant when someone viewed their story, but didn't respond to their call. These digital interactions activate the same neural pathways as real-world threats to your relationship, even though they're often meaningless social media behaviors. Your digital behavior reflects your internal emotional security more accurately than you might realize. When you're secure in yourself and your connection, social media becomes background noise rather than a constant source of relationship information. When you're insecure, every digital interaction becomes loaded with meaning about their feelings, your worth, and the relationship's future. The depth of your connection shows up in how much their digital behavior affects your emotional state. If their social media activity can make or break your day, you're likely more attached to the validation they provide than to who they are as a person. Real love doesn't require constant digital confirmation because it exists in the physical world, built through shared experiences, vulnerability, and time spent together. But digital validation is just the surface layer of what separates genuine connection from manufactured attraction. The real test comes when you move beyond the highlight reel. Question 4 to 6, the vulnerability test. These next 3 questions test whether you can be present for their emotional reality, not just their curated version. Anyone can be attracted to someone's highlight reel, but only real love can handle their full humanity. Question 4. They share something deeply personal about their past, maybe trauma, family issues, or a struggle they've never told anyone else. Your immediate reaction is: 1. I feel uncomfortable and don't really know what to say. I kind of wish they hadn't told me. 2. I listen, but I'm already thinking about how to fix it or give advice. 3. I feel honored that they trusted me, even though it's heavy. I want to support them however I can. 4. I feel their pain in my own chest. I'm grateful they shared this with me, and I want to hold space for whatever they're feeling. Your comfort with their pain reveals everything about your emotional capacity. If you picked one, you're likely experiencing what psychologists call emotional overwhelm. Their vulnerability triggers your own discomfort with difficult emotions. This suggests you might be more attracted to the idea of intimacy than actual intimacy itself. When someone shares their trauma and your first instinct is to retreat, you're showing that you prefer them polished rather than human. 2 indicates you're trying to manage their emotions rather than simply witness them. The urge to fix or advise comes from your own anxiety about their pain, not from genuine care. You're uncomfortable with emotional complexity, so you try to solve it away. This response suggests you might be more invested in being needed than in truly knowing them. 3 shows you understand the privilege of being trusted with someone's story. You recognize that vulnerability is a gift, even when it's messy. This response indicates you can separate their emotional experience from your own comfort level. 4 demonstrates what secure attachment looks like. You can feel empathy without being overwhelmed, offer presence without trying to control their experience. Question 5. You're both having terrible days. Work stress, family drama, just life being life. You can't see each other in person, and physical comfort isn't available. What keeps you connected? 1. Honestly, not much. We're both grumpy, and there's no sexual tension to fall back on. 2. We might text complaints about our days, but it feels kind of flat without the physical element. 3. We check in on each other, share what's bothering us, maybe have a long phone call. 4. Even through screens, I feel close to them. Our connection doesn't depend on physical presence or good moods. This scenario strips away all the exciting elements, the physical attraction, the good times, the fun energy, and asks what remains. When you picked 1, you're revealing that your connection depends on external circumstances rather than internal bond. If bad days with no physical contact leave you with nothing, you're likely attracted to what they provide rather than who they are. 2 shows you can maintain some connection through shared experience, but it feels diminished without physical elements. This suggests your bond relies heavily on sensory experiences: touch, presence, sexual chemistry. Without these elements, the relationship loses its vitality for you. 3 demonstrates emotional intimacy capacity. You can connect through difficulties, offer support during stress, and maintain closeness despite distance. This response indicates you've built something that exists beyond physical presence. 4 shows secure attachment, where your bond transcends circumstances. Your connection lives in emotional space, not just physical or temporal space. Question 6. They achieve something important at work or in their personal life, but they don't immediately share it with you. You find out through social media or mutual friends. How do you react? 1. I feel hurt and excluded. Why wouldn't they want to share good news with me first? 2. I'm annoyed. If we're close, I should be one of the first to know about big things in their life. 3. I feel happy for them, though a little disappointed I wasn't included in the celebration. 4. I'm genuinely excited about their success. They probably had their reasons for not sharing immediately, and that's okay. Your reaction to their independence reveals your relationship motivations more clearly than almost any other scenario. Research shows that securely attached individuals are comfortable with closeness and interdependence, while also respecting their partner's autonomy. If you chose 1, you're experiencing what psychologists call emotional entitlement, the belief that closeness means constant inclusion in every aspect of their life. This response suggests you're using their sharing behavior to measure your importance to them. Your self-worth becomes tied to being their first choice for emotional support or celebration. When they don't immediately include you, you interpret it as rejection rather than independence. 2 indicates you're treating their emotional life like territory you should have access to. You're conflating closeness with control, intimacy with information. This response suggests you might be more focused on your position in their life than on their actual well-being. 3 shows emotional maturity with some remaining attachment anxiety. You can celebrate their success while acknowledging your own feelings about not being included. This response indicates you're working towards secure attachment, but still have some work to do around independence and control. 4 demonstrates genuine love. You can be happy for them without making their choices about you. You trust that their reasons for not sharing immediately don't reflect their feelings about you. This response shows you can love them as a complete person, not just as someone who meets your emotional needs. These scenarios test emotional intimacy capacity versus physical or validation attraction, because they remove all the exciting elements that typically drive surface-level connections. There's no sexual tension, no fun energy, no ego stroking. Just raw human experience requiring empathy, presence, and emotional labor. Your ability to hold space for others' emotions indicates secure attachment, which affects approximately 66% of the US population. Securely attached individuals can be present for their partner's emotional experience without being overwhelmed by it. They can offer support without trying to control the situation, and they can maintain their own emotional stability while witnessing someone else's struggles. How you respond to their success reveals whether you're seeking partnership or completion. If their achievements make you feel threatened or excluded, you're likely looking for someone to fill emotional voids in your own life. If you can celebrate their wins without needing to be central to them, you're approaching love from a place of wholeness rather than need. The uncomfortable truth is that many people can only love someone's highlight reel. They're attracted to the fun version, the sexy version, the accomplished version, but they struggle with the human version. The one who has bad days, carries trauma, and sometimes needs space to process their own experiences. Your comfort with their vulnerability and independence reveals whether you're ready for love or just seeking completion. Real love doesn't require constant access to someone's emotional life or immediate inclusion in every moment of joy. It can hold space for complexity, respect boundaries, and celebrate someone's full humanity, even the parts that don't directly serve your needs. But vulnerability in the present moment is only part of the equation. The real test of your feelings comes when you're forced to imagine this connection extending beyond the excitement of right now into an uncertain future. Question 7 to 9. The future and fear factor. These scenarios force you to confront what happens when the immediate benefits disappear and only the core connection remains. Question 7. Picture this person in 10 years. They're less physically attractive than they are now, but they've become more emotionally mature, wiser, and more secure in themselves. How do you feel about this version of them? 1. Honestly, I'm not sure I'd still be attracted to them. Physical chemistry is really important to me. 2. I'd probably be okay with it, but I hope we'd still have fun together and maintain some spark. 3. I think I'd actually be more attracted to them. Emotional maturity is really appealing to me. 4. I feel excited about growing older with them. The idea of witnessing their growth and being part of their journey feels meaningful. Your response to this scenario reveals whether your attraction is based on current gratification or genuine partnership. If you picked 1, you're likely experiencing what researchers call aesthetic attraction. You're drawn to their current physical state rather than their essence as a person. This suggests your connection depends heavily on external factors that naturally change over time. When physical attraction is your primary driver, the idea of aging together feels threatening rather than natural. 2 indicates you're trying to balance physical and emotional attraction, but you're still uncertain about what would sustain the connection long term. You're hoping that other elements would compensate for decreased physical chemistry, but you're not confident about what those elements would be. This response suggests you haven't fully explored what draws you to this person beyond their current state. 3 shows you understand that emotional maturity actually enhances attraction over time. You recognize that depth, wisdom, and security become more appealing as you grow together. This response indicates you're attracted to their potential for growth, not just their current presentation. For demonstrates what secure attachment looks like when extended into the future. You see them as a person to evolve with rather than a fixed entity to consume. Question 8. When you think about this connection, what's your biggest fear? 1. Losing the excitement and passion. What if things get boring or routine? 2. Being abandoned or replaced. What if they find someone better? 3. Growing apart or becoming incompatible as we change. 4. Losing someone who really knows and accepts me. Your fear response indicates what you're actually afraid of losing, them or what they provide. If you chose 1, you're revealing that your connection depends on maintaining a certain level of stimulation and intensity. You're afraid of the natural rhythm of long-term relationships, where passion evolves into deeper intimacy. This fear suggests you might be more attracted to the feeling of being in love than to the actual person. 2 shows abandonment anxiety that often stems from past relationship trauma or insecure attachment patterns. You're afraid of being left behind, which indicates you might be seeking security through this connection rather than offering it. This response suggests you're using their presence to regulate your own emotional state rather than building genuine partnership. 3 demonstrates awareness that people change and grow, sometimes in different directions. This is a mature fear because it acknowledges that love requires ongoing choice and compatibility. You're afraid of natural relationship challenges, which shows you understand that lasting connection requires effort and adaptation. For reveals your deepest fear is losing someone who truly sees you. This suggests you've experienced real intimacy and understand its value. Question 9. They get an amazing job opportunity that requires them to move away for a year. It's a career-defining moment they've worked toward for a long time. Your immediate reaction is, 1. I feel panicked and abandoned. How can they choose their career over us? 2. I'm proud of them, but worried about what this means for our relationship. Long distance is really hard. 3. I feel genuinely happy for them, even though I'll miss them terribly. I want to support their dreams. 4. I'm excited for their opportunity and confident we can make it work. Their growth makes me happy. Your support versus abandonment response reveals whether you see them as a complete person or just as someone who meets your needs. If you picked one, you're experiencing what psychologists call emotional dependency. You need their presence to feel secure, so their independence feels like rejection. This response suggests you're seeking completion through this connection, rather than offering partnership. 2 shows you can celebrate their success, while acknowledging your own concerns about the relationship. You're trying to balance support with self-protection, which indicates some emotional maturity mixed with attachment anxiety. This response suggests you want to be supportive, but you're not confident in the relationship's ability to withstand challenges. 3 demonstrates genuine care for their well-being separate from your own needs. You can feel sad about the distance while still prioritizing their happiness and growth. This response indicates you love them as a complete person, not just as someone who provides you with companionship or security. 4 shows secure attachment where their success enhances rather than threatens your connection. Future-oriented questions reveal whether your connection is based on current gratification or genuine partnership, because they strip away the immediate benefits you're receiving. When you can only love someone in their current state, in their current location, with their current level of availability, you're probably more attached to what they provide than who they are. Research on long-term relationship satisfaction shows that couples who can envision growing together, who support each other's individual development, and maintain attraction through life changes, have significantly higher relationship longevity. A 2025 study by Jeffrey Jackson and colleagues at Brigham Young University noted that personality traits and attachment patterns tend to influence and reinforce each other, meaning that how you approach the future with your partner is influenced by your past experiences and personality. The fear responses indicate what you're actually afraid of losing, them or what they provide. When you're afraid of losing excitement, you're attached to the feeling rather than the person. When you're afraid of being abandoned, you're using their presence to regulate your own emotional state. When you're afraid of growing apart, you understand that love requires ongoing choice and compatibility. When you're afraid of losing someone who truly knows you, you've experienced real intimacy. Your reaction to their growth and change reveals your relationship foundation. If their evolution threatens you, you're probably attached to a specific version of them rather than their essence. If their growth excites you, you see them as a person to discover rather than a fixed entity to possess. The uncomfortable truth is that many people can only love someone in their current state. They're attracted to who this person is right now, in this moment, with this level of availability and these specific characteristics. But real love sees potential, embraces change, and grows stronger through challenges. Your vision of the future together reveals whether you see them as a person to grow with or an experience to consume. When you can imagine aging together, supporting their dreams even when they inconvenience you, and maintaining attraction through life's natural changes, you're approaching love from a place of partnership rather than need. But there's one more layer to examine. Beyond all the scenarios and psychological analysis, there's something more fundamental happening when you're drawn to someone. Something that cuts through all the rational explanations and reveals what's actually happening at the deepest level. Question 10. The soul recognition test. This final question cuts through all pretense to reveal core truth about what actually draws you to someone. It strips away the rational explanations, the justifications, the stories you tell yourself about why you're attracted to this person. Instead, it asks you to access something deeper. That first moment of recognition when you saw them across a room and felt something shift inside you. Question 10. Picture yourself in a crowded room, maybe a party, a coffee shop, or a work event. You scan the space and your eyes land on this person. What draws you to them in that split second before conscious thought kicks in? 1. Their physical presence commands attention. There's something magnetic about how they move, how they carry themselves, their smile. 2. They're giving you focused attention that makes you feel special and seen in a way that's intoxicating. 3. Their energy feels familiar, like you've known them before. There's something about their essence that resonates with yours. 4. You can't explain it rationally, but something in you recognizes something in them. It's not about what they look like or how they act. It's something deeper. This question bypasses your rational mind to access intuitive recognition because it asks about that moment before you have time to think. Your brain processes attraction in milliseconds, making assessments based on thousands of subconscious cues before your conscious mind even registers what's happening. That initial draw happens in your nervous system, not in your thoughts, and it reveals truths about connection that logic can't touch. Malcolm Gladwell wrote about thin-sliced judgments, how people can make surprisingly accurate assessments about others based on minimal information. Research shows that people can predict relationship compatibility, trustworthiness, and even long-term attraction within the first few seconds of meeting someone. Your subconscious mind processes micro-expressions, body language, energy patterns, and countless other signals that your conscious mind completely misses. This question taps into that primal recognition system. If you chose one, you're responding to what psychologists call aesthetic attraction. You're drawn to their physical presentation and the way they occupy space. This isn't shallow, but it indicates your connection is rooted in sensory experience rather than energetic resonance. You're attracted to how they appear rather than who they are at their core. This type of attraction can be intense and immediate, but it depends on external factors that naturally change over time. 2 reveals that you're drawn to their attention rather than their essence. You're responding to how they make you feel about yourself. Special, chosen, validated. This suggests your attraction is actually about getting your own needs met rather than recognizing something unique about them. When someone's attention toward you is what draws you in, you're likely experiencing ego attraction rather than soul recognition. 3 indicates something deeper. You feel familiar with them in a way that transcends physical appearance or behavior. There's something about their energy, their presence, their way of being that feels like home. This suggests you're responding to their essence rather than their presentation. You recognize something in them that resonates with something in you, creating a sense of coming home to yourself rather than finding something outside yourself. For points to what spiritual traditions call soul recognition, an inexplicable knowing that transcends rational explanation. You can't pinpoint what draws you to them because it's not based on observable characteristics. Instead, something in your core recognizes something in their core. This type of attraction often feels calm rather than exciting, familiar rather than thrilling, inevitable rather than surprising. The difference between recognizing someone as familiar versus exciting reveals whether you're meeting them or meeting a reflection of your own desires. Excitement often comes from projection. You're responding to what you imagine they could provide, how they might complete you, or what they represent about your own desirability. Familiarity comes from recognition. You sense something authentic about who they are that resonates with something authentic about who you are. Soul recognition feels different from ego attraction in fundamental ways. Ego attraction creates urgency, anxiety, and a sense of need. You feel like you have to have them, like you'll be incomplete without them. Soul recognition creates peace, curiosity, and a sense of homecoming. You feel like you want to know them more deeply, like spending time with them helps you know yourself more fully. Research on energetic compatibility shows that attraction involves factors beyond conscious awareness. Studies on pheromones reveal that people are subconsciously drawn to others whose immune systems complement their own. Research on biorhythm synchronization shows that compatible couples naturally sync their breathing patterns, heart rates, and even brainwave activity when they're together. Your body recognizes compatibility before your mind does. Many people confuse ego attraction with soul recognition because both can feel intense. But ego attraction feels hungry. You want to consume them, possess them, or be validated by them. Soul recognition feels nourishing. You want to know them, understand them, and witness their growth. Ego attraction makes you feel incomplete without them. Soul recognition makes you feel more complete within yourself when you're with them. When you're truly recognizing someone, you feel curious about their inner world rather than anxious about their feelings toward you. You want to understand their thoughts, support their growth, and witness their authentic self-expression. When you're projecting onto someone, you feel anxious about whether they'll meet your needs, validate your worth, or fulfill your expectations. This final question reveals whether you're meeting them or meeting a reflection of your own desires, because it asks about that moment before psychological needs kick in. Before you start thinking about what they could provide, how they might complete you, or what being with them would say about you. In that split second of first recognition, you're responding to something real about who they are rather than something imagined about what they could do for you. The people who choose options 3 or 4 are usually experiencing recognition. They're drawn to something authentic about this person's essence. The people who choose options 1 or 2 are usually experiencing projection. They're drawn to what this person represents or provides rather than who they actually are. Both experiences are valid, but only recognition creates the foundation for lasting love. Now that you've answered all 10 questions, it's time to add up your responses and see where you land.
Scoring your results, what your numbers actually mean. Your score matters less than your emotional reaction to getting it. Did you feel relieved when you saw your number? Disappointed? Surprised? That gut reaction tells you more about your readiness for love than any calculated result ever could. Your score is just data, but your feelings about that data reveal what you actually want from this connection. Let's break down what these ranges mean. If you scored 10 to 17, you're in digital lust/validation, seeking territory. You're drawn to this person intensely, but the attraction centers around how they make you feel about yourself rather than who they actually are. Your connection thrives on uncertainty, digital validation, and the dopamine hits of modern dating culture. You might find yourself constantly checking their social media, analyzing their response times, or feeling anxious when they're not immediately available. This doesn't make you shallow. It means your nervous system has been conditioned to associate love with excitement and validation with connection. The 18 to 26 range puts you in emotional limbo, situationship mode. You're close to this person, and there's genuine care involved, but something feels missing or undefined. You might enjoy their company, share intimate moments, and feel comfortable together, but you're not sure if this is leading somewhere deeper, or if you're both just enjoying the convenience. This score suggests you're experiencing real emotional connection mixed with uncertainty about commitment, compatibility, or long-term potential. Scoring 27-34 indicates growing love. You're beginning to understand and appreciate this person beyond their surface qualities. You can handle their vulnerability, support their independence, and envision a future together. This range suggests you're building something substantial based on genuine compatibility rather than just chemistry or validation. You're moving past the initial attraction phase into something more grounded and sustainable. The 35 to 40 range represents secure partnership. You've found someone whose essence resonates with yours, who you can love through changes and challenges, and who makes you feel more like yourself rather than someone you need to perform for. This score indicates you're experiencing intimacy, passion, and commitment in balanced ways that support both your individual growth and your connection together. Each range reflects different psychological needs and attachment patterns that have been shaped by your past experiences and current emotional state. The digital lust, validation-seeking range often indicates anxious attachment patterns where you use romantic connection to regulate your own emotional state. The emotional limbo range might suggest avoidant attachment, where you want connection but fear vulnerability. Growing love indicates you're developing more secure attachment patterns, while secure partnership suggests you're already operating from a place of emotional security. These scores connect to current research on relationship stages and modern dating patterns in revealing ways. The rise of situationships, the dopamine addiction of dating apps, and the comparison culture of social media have created new relationship categories that previous generations didn't experience. Your score reflects not just your feelings about this specific person, but how modern dating culture has shaped your approach to connection. The gap between your hoped-for score and your actual score reveals internal conflicts you might not have recognized. If you secretly hoped for a higher score, you might be more invested in this connection than you've admitted to yourself. If you're relieved your score wasn't higher, you might be protecting yourself from deeper vulnerability. If you're disappointed it wasn't lower, you might be trying to convince yourself you're more casual about this person than you actually are. Your disappointment or relief with these results indicates your true desires more clearly than your conscious thoughts might. Relief suggests you're not ready for the level of commitment or vulnerability that a higher score would require. Disappointment suggests you want deeper connection but might be afraid to pursue it. Excitement about your score indicates alignment between your conscious desires and your emotional reality. All scores represent valid stages of human connection, not judgments about your worth or relationship skills. Digital attraction isn't less real than secure love. It's just different. Situationships aren't failed relationships. They're sometimes necessary stages of exploration. Growing love isn't incomplete, it's developing. Each stage serves different needs and teaches different lessons about yourself and connection. Understanding your current relationship patterns gives you the information you need to make conscious choices about how you want to connect with others. Your score describes where you are right now, not where you're stuck forever. Relationships can evolve between categories with conscious effort and self-awareness. Someone experiencing digital lust can learn to recognize their validation-seeking patterns and develop capacity for deeper intimacy. Someone stuck in emotional limbo can work on their vulnerability and commitment skills. Your emotional reaction to your score tells you more about your readiness for love than the score itself. If you feel curious about your results, you're probably ready to examine your patterns and make conscious changes. If you feel defensive, you might need more time to develop self-awareness before pursuing deeper connection. If you feel excited, you're likely ready to use this information to build more authentic relationships. The scoring system isn't meant to categorize you permanently, but to give you language for understanding your current relationship approach. These categories can shift as you grow, heal, and develop new relationship skills. What matters most is whether you're willing to be honest with yourself about your patterns and conscious about your choices moving forward. The people who benefit most from this quiz are those who use their results as starting points for self-reflection rather than final verdicts about their relationship potential. Understanding your current patterns helps you make conscious choices about how you want to connect with others, whether that means working on your own emotional security or recognizing when you're ready for deeper commitment. Your emotional reaction to your score reveals whether you're ready to grow or still protecting yourself from uncomfortable truths about your relationship patterns. But here's what's really happening in modern dating culture. Technology has fundamentally changed how we approach love, creating both new obstacles and unexpected opportunities for those willing to examine their patterns honestly. The people thriving in relationships right now aren't the ones with perfect profiles or flawless game. They're the ones doing the inner work, recognizing their patterns, and choosing connection over validation. Your quiz results aren't something to fix immediately. Sit with them first. Notice what they reveal about your relationship with yourself, not just with other people. Whether you scored in the digital lust range or secure partnership territory, each result offers information about your current emotional state and relationship patterns. Awareness comes before action, always. The shift happening in 2025 is real. People are prioritizing emotional consistency and intentional dating over endless swiping and surface-level connections. Your willingness to examine your patterns honestly puts you ahead of most people still caught in the dopamine cycle of modern dating apps. So here's my question for you. What are you actually seeking in connection? And are you ready to receive it?